Okay, so we are going to start the next chapter on agriculture. Now, as I did in the previous video, I would just like to analyze the chapter and what I call as surveying. So, in the surveying of the chapter, we simply look at the key topics, we look at the keywords just to get an idea of what this chapter involves. And I recommend that you do this in your other subjects as well. So, let's get started. So the first opening statement is good. It talks about India is an agriculturally important country. So we are okay. I mean, as the name suggests, it's all going to be about agriculture. Now, if you look at the first topic, it is talking about types of farming. So what this means is that's what we are going to look at the different types of farmings. And what we'll be talking about is something called primitive or subsistence farming. Then you have this keyword name zooming, right? So there is going to be something about that. It's also known as the slash and burn agriculture, and with its with its different names. So that's one type of farming. Then you have the second topic, which is intensive subsistence farming. What that is, where is it practiced, why it is practiced. Then you have the commercial farming. We will be learning about that. Then there's also this concept of this term called plantation, what is important, and so on. Now, if you look at some pictures, right, there is this banana plantation, then you have a bamboo plantation. So, yes, plantation is an important concept that we will learn here as well in the types of farming. Then, the next big topic, as you can see, is cropping pattern. What does it mean? Okay, and you can see that there are three keywords here. There are three cropping seasons. So it depends, so which is Rabi, Kharif, and Zaid. So I think this is what it is going to be all about. Then there will be discussions on when all these are sown, what are the kind of crops, and so on, right? Then you look at major crops. What are the major crops? So that's the third topic, big topic that we'll have. And in that you can see obviously rice is one, where is it, where it is grown, and so on. You can see some example here, picture shown of rice cultivation, how rice is ready to be harvested. This is early stages, this is lesser. So rice is an important food crop. Oh, and I also like to look at the diagrams very quickly. So you can see this is a map of India, which shows rice cultivation, and they have something called a lightly shaded green as the minor area, and dark shaded green as the major area. So you can just mostly see that it is towards the east and the southern parts, and with some northern parts also kind of growing rice. So it's always good to see, right, that this may be expected of you. Then the next crop we will talk about is wheat as another major crop. Then you have millets as another major crop. Then we will learn about maize as another major crop. Okay, and then you can see that there is also a diagram or this map given which plots where wheat is grown in different parts of India. And you can see it's mostly in the upper half, right? Mostly focused in the north with a little bit towards the east as well, east part of India. Then there's going to be discussion on the pulses, so you can see. Okay, and once we finish that, there's also going to be a discussion on the food crops that are different than the grains. So we'll talk about sugarcane in this chapter. The other things include oil seeds. You can see, okay, why are oil seeds important? Of course we all use oil. Then there is this whole thing about tea, and you can see there are some pictures on sugarcane cultivation, groundnut, sunflower, and mustard. So you already know these are the topics that we will be learning about in this. You look at the tea cultivation and how tea leaves are harvested. So obviously there's going to be some discussion on tea. We're also going to talk about coffee. Where is it grown? And what are some of the, let's say, conditions that it needs. Then there is also something called horticulture crops. What do you mean by this? Right? It's about fruits and vegetables, right? And we see that how these are grown. And you can see some of the crops that are grown from horticulture, like apricots, apple, pomegranate, and the vegetables like peas, cauliflower, tomato, and brinjal. Where are these grown in India? Then we will also look at another topic of non-food crops. They are also important, and in that we will include rubber, fiber crops, cotton. You look at jute. These are the two important ones. Then we look at the fourth big topic in this chapter, which involves the technological and institutional reforms. And why is it important? How is it helpful for agriculture? What the government of India has done. And you can see there is some example of the technological equipments used in agriculture and how does it help the agriculture. Okay, you can see this concept of Bhudan or Gramdan. What does it mean? How does it help the activity of agriculture? And then we also talk about the contribution of the agriculture to the national economy, the employment and the output. Okay, that is the another topic that we will be talking. Then finally, I think in this chapter there is also the discussion on the impact of globalization on the architecture. What does globalization mean? Then you can see that the other theme that is discussed is of food security, right? What is the meaning of food security and why is it important for India? Okay, so that's what we'll be looking at. And I think, yeah, those are the key, I would say, ideas that we'll be discussing in this chapter. I also like to, look at the questions before I, read the chapter, so that it helps me to keep an eye on what is important. So if I look at the multiple choice questions, the first one here talks about a system of agriculture where a single crop, and you have all these different types of names: shifting, plantation, horticulture, and intensive. The second question talks about which of the following is a rabi crop, so I should be able to answer after learning the ideas from the chapter. And the third one talks about which of the following is a leguminous crop. So these are the kind of questions that you are expected. Then let's look at the part 2, short answer questions. Name one important beverage crop and specify the geographical conditions required for its growth. So you could, replace this beverage with any other thing and the conditions for its growth. That is one. Then name one staple crop of India and the regions where it is produced. So this is a question related to the major crops. Then you have enlist the various institutional reform programs introduced by the government in the interest of the farmer. So you are expected to know what these are and be able to write them down. Then the land under cultivation has got reduced day by day. Can you imagine its consequences? So this kind of points to the food security and what are the challenges. So you will have to be able to answer this based on the learnings in the chapter. And then finally, we have answered the 4 questions in about 120 words, so a little bit long type of answers. So suggest the initiative taken by the government to ensure increase in agricultural production. Then the impact of globalization on Indian agriculture and the geographical conditions required for the growth of rice. Okay, and then there is something that you can do for project, like discussion on the necessity of literacy amongst the farmers, and on an outline of the map of India show the wheat producing area. So we already saw the picture earlier. So this gives you a good idea of what kind of questions can be expected and what are the things that you need to keep a watch out for when we learn this chapter. So that is it. That is a very quick survey of the key ideas and the themes that we will be covering in this chapter on agriculture.